Oh, yes. Well, thank you for inviting. Can you guys hear me well? All right. I'm gonna start with sharing screen. Give me a second. All right. Okay. All right. Can you guys see the screen well? Okay. I cannot read the comments from here, but I assume that screen is working fine. If not, let me know.
It's working fine. You can go.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so my name is Ju. I'm in charge of Asia Partnership for Maker Foundation. Do want to clarify that I'm from the Maker Foundation. So MakerDao is that's run by the governance and the community. We are the just ones that help to bootstrap the initial DAO. Now, for MakerDAO, especially within the DeFi space, is pretty well known. So I'm pretty sure that you guys are familiar with how Maker works, as well as like CDP or Vault. So I'm not gonna go too much detail into like a background on DeFi. I will discuss about how like Maker system works, and I will spend more time getting questions from you guys. I'm pretty sure that many of you guys are curious about where Maker Foundation as well as MakerDAO is heading, as well as some other potential concerns or suggestions, things like that. So to describe Maker, we do want to talk about DeFi briefly, as many others already mentioned, and then talk about DAI, and then our monetary system, as well as real-world use cases, and also accept some questions. And I'm going to go through them pretty quickly, because many of you guys are already pretty familiar with many of the things that I'm going to say. So the thing about DeFi is that we all know that it's transparent and also decentralized and open for everyone. And then we talk about how DeFi is so strong. Now, there are many people who might be like, okay, DeFi is just a scam, it's speculative. But what we also realize is that DeFi has potential, and it's already helping many people around the world to access finance that are usually hindered by either corruption or in access, things like that, right? So you don't need a bank account to actually access this. You just need your personal account, which means that you just need internet and everyone can access it. So let's go through it. So DeFi space has been growing very rapidly. Many others also describe about DeFi space overall. So I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but basically we are seeing very rapid growth for it. I think that just this year we are cheering when it hit 1 billion, but now it's going over 9 billion. It went down a little bit, but now it's going back up. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna hit at least 10 billion this year, even probably more. And then we see that there are many different participants in the space. So just a few months ago, the space itself was dominated mainly by like Maker or like Compound or Aave, but now we have many new participants, such as Car Finance and many others. So we're seeing even newer participants as well. So this one is based on September, but if you check again, and then also look at some different tractors, then you're also going to see some new contenders like, let's say, SushiSwap and teams like that. So we're definitely seeing this DeFi space becoming more diverse. Now, so in this decentralization, we talk about free and open system, but then we also think about, okay, so how do those business and industries and those people work? But a lot of times people also don't think about, okay, so if you're looking at this our current economy, what is very important, right? And then we look at the current economy, what we realize is that it's not just about trading, but it's also about like people having stable medium for exchange. Actually, let me close this one. So that's where like DAI plays in. So we like to talk about how the DeFi space is money level, right? So there's Ethereum as a base layer, but there's also a DAI and then many others that use it, and then also some other services that serve it. For example, Instant DF itself can help between Maker and Compound, and then you have other services that build on it. And we're definitely also seeing more new services such as like wallets, as well as trackers, things like that, or like aggregators. Okay. Right. So what is Maker building? Okay, so Maker is trying to build by stablecoin, right? So this allows people who do not have access to legacy finance, especially like more traditional finance, to access this global financial system. And then I'm going to explain more here, but this is how. So one of the biggest nonprofit, Oxfam, also use DAI for its services to try to help people around the world. I'm going to discuss it more later as well. So once again, stablecoin is needed, especially for mainstream adoption of cryptocurrencies. If you think about more like traditional finance as well, like we do a lot of, let's say, trading or finance or buying and selling, or just like saving, we really rely on our fiat money, right? So we rely on the stable value. And then within cryptocurrency, because a lot of cryptocurrencies, including Ethereum, are very volatile, it is important to use stablecoin. And out of those stablecoin, DAI is the decentralized one. So especially within DeFi space, we like to use it. Now to describe, before that you used to be called Psi, and then it's softpeg to US dollar, and then right now there are many different asset types that are backing it. So for Psi, it was only Ethereum, but for DAI, we have now Ethereum, WBTC, right now even USDC, and many others that are coming up. And then it's not just used in cryptocurrency, it's also used outside cryptocurrency, this field as well. So for example, UNICEF, Oxfam, many different ways to use it. And then as the name MakerDao suggests, it is governed by DAO. And then it helps to really expand the DeFi system as well. So to describe about the DAI stablecoin system, as many are probably familiar, we have what previously called CDP. Now we call it vault. Basically means that you have your cryptocurrency as collateral to mint it. To describe to more legacy finance, it would be like having, let's say, your real estate as collateral to borrow money. Now, a lot of people ask about, okay, why would anybody do this kind of overcollateralized loan, right? They're like, okay, like if you, let's say, want to turn it into money, why don't you just sell it, instead of like minting it? Well, because sometimes you want to maintain the exposure to underlying asset. So if you go back to, let's say, real estate, if you believe that, let's say, there's this building and then you believe that it's gonna go 10x like next year, right? It's a very, has a lot of potential, but you need money right now. Well, then are you gonna sell your building just to get this money? Probably not. What you're gonna do is that you're gonna put it as a collateral and then borrow money, right? MakerDao system is very similar. So for example, there are a lot of people who are very optimistic about Ethereum, but let's say they need some money, then they can have Ethereum as collateral and to mint DAI. We actually had some people in Korea where they actually use Ethereum as collateral to mint DAI to buy real buildings and real estate. We also have some people who buy cars and others. So we actually see those that just not just remain in the cryptocurrency, but also transfer over to reward as well. And also some people use it for leverage as well. So for example, you can have Ethereum as collateral, mint DAI, use the DAI to buy more Ethereum, right? Basically, you're leveraging yourself in more decentralized manner. Yes, like I described, so there's a vault, you have cryptocurrency as collateral, and you mint DAI, and then so several risk parameters as well as governance. For example, like stability fee is decided by maker holders, and then those help to maintain the price of the DAI to $1, and then DAI can be used for many different things. And then especially it's focusing on people who do not have access to finance. And then there are also many different innovations they're trying to really expand it. Because, for example, there's a lot of concern about gas fee, as well as concern about people who are not familiar with blockchain. And that's where some of those innovations, as well as partners, come in. Like, for example, there are wallet companies like Argent, which allow people who are not familiar with cryptocurrency to access it easier. And they use to subsidize gas fee as well. And then there are also many other solutions, whether it's layer 2 others, they're trying to make it faster and also easier for users as well. So we're definitely seeing many different cases and innovations to try to make it more accessible, especially for those who do not have access to finance. So once again, this is described more, but in here I do want to also talk about DSR, which right now it's 0%. So, but once it's activated, what you can do is that you can put DAI, and then you can stake it to get rewards. So if, let's say, DSR is 5%, if you put 100 DAI after a year, then you will get 105 DAI. So you can imagine that this can work as similar to savings account for people. And then this also means that many people who do not have access to such saving account can easily access it as well. Yep. So we are actually seeing a lot of people and also a lot of partners using DAI. And once again, this is not just within DeFi. We are also seeing it, for example, like a blockchain gaming, like X Infinity, as well as global organizations like UNICEF and many others. So we're seeing more integrations as well as high DAI transaction. This one is up to July, but if you expand more, then we're definitely going to see actually more as well. And then, for example, we talk about Oxpan case, but not only this, we're seeing a lot of cases where people try DAI because it's decentralized as well as transparent. So we're definitely going to see more cases like this as well. So, yep, DeFi, once again, we're trying to provide economic empowerment as well as access for more. And then for today, I made it very short because I assume that a lot of you guys are familiar with the Maker system. But if you guys have any questions, you can also email me at do.makerdao.com. You can also track me on Twitter as well. So I think for the rest of time, I'm going to use it for answering questions if you guys have any.
Thank you, Du.
Sure.
We have 2 questions here now. The first one is that DeFi is creating a lot of competitors for MKR, which is the first mover. What is the plan moving forward?
Okay, so so I think that it's a little different way to look at competitor, right? Because MakerDao system itself has many different services. I think that in large part we can describe it to 3 parts, right? So Maker system itself is made of DAI, stablecoin, right? So decentralized stablecoin space, and then there's a lending part, right? So you basically have cryptocurrencies as collateral to borrow, right? So that's a little bit more close to, I guess, Compound or Aave. And then you have savings part, which, Ava or I guess more recent projects like YR, I think Wi-Fi kind of can play into it. So that's a very interesting question. I would say that in terms of decentralized stablecoin, we're definitely seeing a lot of interesting innovations happening, right? For example, synthetics or synthetic USD. I know in Korea there's also Terra, which is pegged to Korean won, as well as many other interesting innovations that are happening. And then from Maker's perspective, DAI has been tested for a long time. For those who remember, even DAI was DAI, it was called SAI now. So back then we went through Ethereum price crashing down more than 70%, right? So we went through a lot of volatility, and now we're in a situation where there's a high demand for yield farming. So so DAI's advantage has been that it went through a lot of different stress tests, and then still managed to hold. Yes, it was not perfect. I mean, we have to admit, but it's improving, and also the governance has been also in place for a long time. For a lot of different other decentralized stablecoins, especially newer ones, it's not really tested yet. So I think that in terms of that, DAI has been more tested, as well as that it's been integrated more. So whether that's exchanges or other services, like for example, or global entities like UNICEF, DAI has been integrated more. So it allows people to access it more easily. In terms of other ones, I don't want to go into too much details, but in terms of lending, Maker system is very different, right? Because for others, they're more flexible. For example, Aave, they usually allow many different collaterals. For even newer ones like Crypto Finance, I realized that they even support a little bit, might be riskier, but newer collateral. For Maker process, it's always slower, but at the same time, it also does a lot of risk analysis as well. So I think that for Maker system, it's different, and also reward part is also different as well. Because for, let's say, systems like Aave or Compound, you're basically putting in a pool and then people borrow, right? So in extreme case, there might be a case where people borrow so much that people who want to withdraw, they cannot withdraw anymore. For a Maker system, for DSR, that doesn't happen because we're not lending out to people for interest, right? That's also a reason why DSR rates has been lower than, let's say, Compound or Aave. But then that also means that in extreme situation like this, we can prevent it. So I would say that that was kind of a long answer, but in terms, I guess, short answer is that Maker system has been tested more, and also the system is in a way conservative, but at the same time, it's trying to reduce risk, right, as much as possible.
Thank you. And we have one more question. It is, what do you feel about the congestion on the blockchain it will affect Maker in the long run too. So what do you think about it moving forward?
Yes, that's a very good question as well. So as I kind of briefly mentioned in my slide, especially for accessing people in, let's say, low-income countries or countries that don't have really access to finance, right? So for those people, especially gas fee is very high. So for them, it really hits them very hard. That's also why we've been working with many different partners that can really try to solve it. So I briefly mentioned Argent, who used to subsidize a lot of this gas fee as well as access to those DeFi protocols. And then we also, there are also many different layer 2 solutions that has been trying to work with DAI. So for example, XDAI is one of them, Matic and many others they've been also working on as well. So I think that it's not just Maker. I think that the Ethereum community overall, as well as DFs, are very concerned about gas fee and the speed. But at the same time, there have been many innovative solutions, and then there are probably more that's coming, as well as E2.0, if it ever actually comes around. So, but yeah. So once again, we are waiting for many different innovations, but already a lot of innovation is happening. It's just that I think that right now is still a test phase, right? People are trying to see how much scale we can have, as well as how many DFs like move there or at least use it together.
Oh, this is a very good question. Any thoughts on stable credit, which Andre Conje from YFI proposed, which could bypass Maker? So it could be a very, very big competitor to Maker.
Yeah. So one thing I realized, at least reading through Twitter, is that I'm not going to say that I'm smarter than Andre. So my IQ cannot understand what they're actually proposing too well. I tried to understand it, but then I also saw that they released the code. I tried to talk with others about it, but then I think that we kind of have to see, wait and see how it launches to like better understand it, or I need to try it, right? But I do think that it's pretty interesting, and I think this also goes back to the original question, right? So the first question was regarding, okay, there are many different like Maker competitors, like how can you compete with it? And I would say that there have been many different decentralized stablecoins. And then I assume that this will be also kind of next step in decentralized, I guess, stablecoin. Will be exciting to see how it comes out. And the interesting about Maker system is that even if it's a, let's say, stablecoin that's better than, let's say, DAI, right? I mean, better is a very subjective term, but let's say it does its purpose better. It can be actually used as collateral within our system. So for example, USDC is already used in our system, POX as well. TradeUSD was proposed as well. So things like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a competitor in a way. So I wouldn't necessarily that it's gonna bypass Maker, because even if, let's say, it's a better than Maker, Maker can observe it. So it's an interesting, I guess, way. But it also kind of shows that DeFi is not just about zero-sum game, right? So many different protocols, many different services, ideas, innovations can work together.
Thank you. And maybe I have one last question for you.
Sure.
How do you see the MakerDAO as a way of looking at Ethereum or Ether as a derivative? Because you use USD or USDT to buy Ether, and from Ether you mint out DAI. So then DAI, your input and output is still the same, which is still USD. And now the only variable you're playing, you're hedging, or you're playing with the change in movement and price is Ether. So if Ether goes down, you can use the DAI that you've purchased to pay off your collaterals, and then it gives you a good position for Ether. Or if Ether goes up, and then you can be borrowing more DAI so that you can be using it in the future. So do you see MakerDAO as a way of a derivative in the DeFi space?
So this is also something that I kind of briefly mentioned in my slide as well. But Maker system itself is over-collateralized loan, which also means that you can use it in many different ways, similar to how people can use it in traditional system as well. So for example, like you mentioned, if you're very optimistic about Ethereum, yes, you can have Ethereum as collateral, mint DAI, buy more Ethereum, put it back, right? And then we already have systems like DeFi Saver and InstaDF that basically allow people to leverage pretty easily. So you don't have to do it manually like me before. So thanks to all those innovations. But yeah, so I think that it's a way for people to use it. I think that's also where like MakerDAO system really comes in. Is that a lot of people like to think that MakerDAO is just or like MakerDAO system is just stablecoin, which is it is stablecoin. It has stablecoin, but if you also look deeper into it, it's more than stablecoin, right? It has a lending part. It has also ways for people to save, and then and also like even if you look at the bigger picture, that it's actually more than just stablecoin. So I think that's something that when we talk with a lot of DeFi people or like DeFi projects, we realize that Maker is involved in DeFi deeper than just DAI, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Du. Thank you for coming on board. And yeah, everyone follow Du. And then bye. We'll have a next speaker.